First up, well, is day 2 of the protests in France, and it has taken a dramatic turn as the protesters took their anti-government movement to the train station with fiery torches and smoke bombs. This as the rail workers voted to extend their strike, while labor unions at the Paris bus and metro operator, the RATP, said their walkout would continue until next week. Videos shot inside mainland train stations in Paris shows protesters storming in a restaurant's balcony during one of the biggest strikes in France in over a decade. The recent set of protests are aimed at forcing President Emmanuel Macron to ditch a planned reform of pensions. Meanwhile, the French police have detained a man in Paris at nightfall after protests mounted. Strikes across the country have also brought operations in most parts of France to a grinding halt. Remember, more than 800,000 people took to the streets against pension reforms yesterday. Meanwhile, the strike pits Macron to open up France's highly regulated economy against powerful trade unions, which blame him for dismantling worker protection. Meanwhile, travelers are frustrated as they have been facing chaos for a second day in a row. Most French trains, including Paris subways, were at a halt. Only a few trains were arriving and departing from the station, which left unprepared travelers struggling to find alternatives.
I came to Paris for the ballet to see Raymonda at the Opera Bastille, and 20 minutes before the performance, they came to the door and stuck a piece of paper up that said, "It's annulé." So no ballet. I've been here now 2 days and I want to go home, and I've rented a car because it's unsure whether I can get a train from Montpellier. I can get a train to Montpellier, but I don't think I can get a train from Montpellier to Narbonne, which is where my car is.
Well, the Chateau of Versailles also remains shut for a second day. That's what we're picking up as well. And Elena is now joining us live for the latest on this. Elena, well, it seems to be one of the largest public sector strikes in France in a really long time, and of course also pits Macron against trade unions.
Yes, it's the biggest strike since 1995, which was also about pensions. The government of the time, of course, was forced to back down after 3 weeks of striking, and every French president since has tried to reform France's pension system and been forced to back down. That's why Emmanuel Macron is so determined to push through this pension reform now. It's not necessarily financially necessary now. The government has produced forecasts showing that the pension system could open up a deficit of up to 19 billion euros over the next 20 years if no reform is carried out. But even they admit that it's not necessary economically to start forcing this through now. But President Macron is trying to make a political point to show that he can succeed with this sort of controversial reform where others have failed.
All right, Elena, thanks very much indeed for the latest updates there on that strike, which has entered its day 2. Thanks for that.